We're now joined by multi-platinum, Grammy award-winning producer, Earl Cohen. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you there, sir?
Doing fantastic. It's a pleasure to join you in the studio here. I would love to have you, break down your history. Tell us, where you grew up, how you fell in love with music, and how you gravitated to the side of making music.
Okay. Well, let's see here. Well, I was still in high school at the time, and I'll never forget, I was just my senior year at the time, and a very good friend of mine just bought a new sound system, live sound system, and make a long story short, says, hey, come on over, help me hook this thing up, right? And I've always been into music. I used to skip school all the time and play all my records, my Zeppelin records, and Yes, and I go on and on, So growing up with all rock and Motown kind of influences. But so as soon as I came over there, we plugged in some mics, and we put one on the kick drum. We had this crazy system, and this was back in '73, right? So at that point, no computers are involved. Like, this is all live, it's all hands on. So put my hand on those faders, turned this kick drum up. It came ripping out of the speakers. I said, oh, this is the job. It just lit me up. And the next thing you know, I started mixing the band that, he was working with and producing them. And that's kind of how it started. So, give a very short thing about it, that's kind of where I came from. So, and then I started working with different bands at that time too, to keep going on it. It's like I started working with them, and then other bands would call me to help, produce their record or mix their shows. And it was actually a very, at that time, it was, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, crazy live shows, girls. I mean, you name it, it was like nuts. Go in the studio, record everyone live. And then you had to know how to, you had to learn how to mic drums, mic guitars. Today, we have these samples. I have all these amazing sounds in seconds that used to take me hours and hours and hours. I spent like 6-7 hours just getting a drum sound before the band even got there, just the drummer and I. So now we have access in 30 seconds, crazy amount of samples. They used to take me hours. It's really, technology has really, been quite fascinating for me.
We'll talk a little bit about any key mentors and what were those projects that really broke through, to the bigger levels so you could really, experience, larger production.
Yeah, let's see here. Wow. I got to really think back. I mean, it's kind of weird because for many years, I just did rock bands. And then I went to audio engineering school in 1980 to learn some technical stuff that I had no idea. I was just turning knobs and making things sound the best I could. Had no idea what was going on. And then when I got out, I started working with a really great producer engineer, and he took me on, helping me and teaching me. His name was Ron Bakioki. And unfortunately today he's not here. I mean, he died of cancer back in the late 80s, but it was a great mentor to me. Speaking of mentors, probably one of my biggest mentors. Like anytime I went, again, when we were like, oh man, I don't even know. So I have so many things on my mind. That's crazy. Got me going now. I mean, when we were mixing at that time, like we'd have 5 guys on a board. There was no automation. So I always had bass and drums, and we'd mix in pieces. So, and maybe to anyone out there who doesn't understand what I'm saying, it's like we had to record to 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch tape. And literally there was no automation, no computer, nothing, you know what I mean? So there'd be 4 or 5 of us on the board. I always had bass and drums, someone else had keyboards, someone else had guitars, and then Ron would always take vocals and effects and stuff for that stuff. And we'd mix in pieces. We'd mix an intro, and then we'd mix a verse. Then we have to go and splice it together, make sure it gelled, edit the tape, splice it, and then go on to the next section with the pre or chorus. And by the end of the session, it would take us probably 2 days just to be able to get something we could even hear before we decided we had to redo anything, and just cut in pieces. But I mean, the thing is, like, Ron was really hard on me. Like, if I didn't make that move and get the tom-toms up right, or get the crashes, and you go, man, he'd go off on me like hard, like be really hard. Like, can you believe he messed up, man? We all got our moves and they're all messed up, like, It's like, hey man, I'm trying, But, and then the funny thing was, because you really brought something back work with Ron. Ron didn't like me looking at meters. I love looking at meters, make sure it wasn't in the red. So he took cardboard and put cardboard all across the console, across every meter. So now just listen what's coming out of the speakers, which really taught me something. That's like, because at the end of the day, think about it. You play something for someone, they're not looking at anything but what's coming out of the speakers. They're either moved or they're not. It's black and white to a listener. So it really taught me to really listen and trust my monitors of the moves and the things that we were doing for, trying to make the song happen, but he was a big mentor to me. And then as I got more in it, getting more into the 80s and working, with more groups and stuff like that, Mutt Lange was a major influence for me. Trevor Horn was another big influence for me. Obviously today, like Max Martin, forget about it, no joke, and George Martin was another one. Quincy Jones, oh my God, Quincy doing those Michael Jackson records were just ridiculous. So, and I would really dig into everyone, all these producers, of what they did, and really study them and really understand, where they're coming from. Like I gave my life up for this, literally, and I wouldn't tell anyone out there to do that, but I did. Like when everyone was at the parties and everyone's inviting me to go hang out with the girls at the party, I was home working on a new thing, in the studio working or doing live sound. And it got to a point where literally I was like doing live sound for different bands at night and working during the day recording either, those bands or some other bands. And I was going 7 days a week, constantly, like nonstop. And then once I had my first hit, forget about it, then like nuts, that really was working. But I ruined a lot of relationships, over it. Yeah, it's like girls want to see their boyfriend and I just didn't make time, So I wouldn't suggest anyone out there to follow my route, because it's, in that sense, But I learned my craft, I got great at my craft because I just put my life into the goddamn thing. And it's amazing too, Jay, at this age, I started in 1973. I look back like I'm going on 50 years now, and it's like, where'd that time go? Like studio time flies. Like when you're in that creative mode, you can start at whatever, noon and midnight, go, oh my God, it's midnight already. Like that, you just think you work 3 hours because you're just in that creative thing and you're going. Next, a year goes by, another year goes by, then 10 years go by. And it's like, I look back now like, oh my God, it was like yesterday I was a kid. I'm still a big kid, I don't grow up, so you got to be trying to make this young music, so.
Well, that's it. Music keeps you young. I started when you did, and I gravitated from playing guitar in bands to putting on the parties. I felt my larger calling was to help a lot of artists rather than to be the one guitarist. And, like your dedication to the craft, we broke artists before there were computers and social media and cell phones and, and all those tools. So you cutting the tape, doing it old school, it kind of gives you a better appreciation now as you moved into digital, of what it really took. You're talking about George Martin making the Beatles on 4 tracks, and things like that. So talk about, I know, New York City obviously was the king of recording.
Yeah.
And maybe not everybody knows that Johnny Kemp song, but Just Got Paid Friday Night, boy, that was a hook,
That was my first big R&B record that I worked on. And it's crazy because, and I hope I didn't cut you off, but you triggered this brain here again now. And Just Got Paid was literally, here's this guy that I grew up listening to Motown and a British rock. And then I worked with rock bands, and I never forget, I got called by one of the studio owners over there in Stanford that this producer, Kashif, was looking for an engineer to come in and work with him on something because someone didn't show up. So I said to him, all right, what, I today I'm open. I'll go in. And I said, matter of fact, I just got my Focusrite EQ from Rupert Neve. I was like one of the first ones to get this EQ in the States. And because I was really big into all the Neve stuff. And I remember him saying, whatever you do, don't take any chances, man. Don't bring that. I go, I love taking chances and risks are everything in this business. That's what it's all about. So I brought that EQ in. And man, we were working with Johnny, and I ran it through that mic pre and EQ'd the crap out. It had a couple cool new features on it. And I remember Kashif turned around looking and goes, "What are you doing, man?" And I go, "Why?" He goes, "These are the most amazing vocals I've ever heard in my life." It got me over 500 hours on the album. I ended up doing the whole album. I paid for that EQ 10 times over by the time I was done with that project. And Johnny was awesome. But yeah, no, I worked on that Johnny Kemp record. I never got credit. I got credit on the album, but I didn't get credit on that one song for God knows what reason. But yeah, it was a smash. I never even collected the plaque because my name wasn't on it. But yeah, that got me into the R&B world. And here's this guy, this kid who, you know, meaning myself, who was doing rock bands for all these years, never had a hit, never got anything really off the ground, you know, did some cool work and stuff. I do this, and man, I have a smash #1. I have everyone calling me in the R&B world. That's how I got on all these R&B records. Next thing I know, I'm in the R&B world. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, if people don't know, go to YouTube right now. Johnny Kemp, K-E-M-P, just got paid. You know, who can't relate to that? You just got paid, you finished your work week, you know, it's you're going to the club.
Yeah, #1 for 8 weeks.
Yeah, yeah.
And I worked with another engineer friend of mine too on that, this guy, Daryl Gustamaccio, which I haven't spoken to in ages. The nicest guy. We had such a great time working together. But yeah, so it was, yeah. But that took, Johnny went, that gave him a career, man. He took right off. Johnny was awesome. Unfortunately, Johnny's another guy died. He died not that long ago, a few years ago. You know?
Wow.
Very talented young guy.
Well, speaking of Kashif, of course, he did a lot with Whitney Houston and,
yeah,
you know,
that's right when I met him.
Clive Davis era.
Yeah.
You know, talk about working with these bigger, you know, acts like that. Whitney, Tina Turner, Anita Baker, you know, Beyonce with Destiny's Child.
Yeah. Yep.
How was that?
I didn't work with Beyonce personally, but I worked on Bootylicious and another one, didn't get credit. Like, I did the whole record, right? I did the whole record, got no credit. And the producer, I didn't produce it. I just worked on the engineering side. And there was a couple different mixes, and I think they ended up using my mix for the video, from what I understand, which I still never got credit. And it was a big record. So one thing I could say to anyone that's watching, one thing you got to do is follow up on your credits, because, you know, people just don't put it in there. And, you know, that's a nice plaque to hang on the wall. That was one of a kind. You know, I think that at the time it sold 6 million, and who knows, by now it's probably 10 million, you know. And it was a big record, man. It was huge. I remember being over at J Records and going, "Oh, this Bootylicious record would be huge. You know, we can't wait for, you know, to hear the, you know, wait for this thing to come out." And it went through the roof. And it was sad. I went to go get the CD. My name's on it. The friggin' what's it called? The recording studio's on there where I worked. So, you know, what are you gonna do?
Well, even though that wasn't Beyonce solo, obviously she was the leader of the group and soon to go solo, you know?
Yeah.
Now talk about this this young girl, Stephanie, that you found, and you know, the world knows as Lady Gaga. Tell about developing the Fame album.
Yeah, well, I was working with the same guy, this guy Rob, and in all honesty, I think it was just him and I, and trying to think and this guy Tom too, Tom Kafafian. So we're the only ones that really believed in her. And the funny thing about this is, we're working on it. No one got this girl, like literally. And people were like coming down on me, like, "Why are you working on that project? That girl's never gonna see the light of day." I go, "No, this girl has something special." And, you know, I'll never forget when I went to see her, you know, Rob says, "Hey, let's, you know, Steph's gonna perform at the bitter end, and let's check out the songs and stuff." So I went, and I never seen her perform. And I'm gonna tell you something, Jay, for the first time in my life, literally, this girl got behind the piano. This is little club, there's 10 people in there, right? Yeah. Most of them are talking. And I never forget, I brought a good friend of mine. We looked at each other. Steph just went through the first couple lines of the verse, and we go, "Oh shit." And this is a girl that got behind the piano and played like she was like floating in some other space. It's like she wasn't there in that room, you know? This was some real artistry thing. And she wasn't on drugs or like that or nothing. I mean, this girl just had this thing, maybe from just working so hard. I don't know, but I just knew I was working with something special. Like I knew that. And again, we spent 2 years on the project, and like the first 9 months we went and shopped to like everyone. Everyone turned her down except for L.A. Reid. He's the only one that got her and understood her, and he ended up doing her first deal. And then after that, we finished I think 5 songs, and she really wanted more of a pop sound. So they had Chris Lord-Alge. They went down to Florida to have Chris mix it, and it got turned in. And when LA heard it, he dropped her 2 weeks later, and plus gave her $50,000 to go away. So look at, you could keep all the masters, we're done, and thank you, but good luck. She was devastated, and here now everyone's coming at me like, see, I told you she's never going anywhere. And I said to Rob at the time, I said, listen, you have this connection with Vince, he'll sign anything you bring. He's the only one left. You got to go see Vince. And sure enough, and the rest is history. Because Vince had Streamline. This had his new label through Interscope with Jimmy Iovine when he was president at the time. And man, it just took off. We couldn't even believe it. Next thing you know, I'm telling you, within 1 year, we go from 10 people at the bitter end to going to see her at Madison Square Garden opening for New Kids on the Block, sold out 20,000 seats. We were like, wow, this is like crazy, And this, I could keep you on here for the next few weeks because I was around that for two years, and it was quite. I have stories. I have a movie about this that's ridiculous from my point of view. What I've seen, nuts.
Well, I used to go to meet him every year, over in France, and I heard Lady Gaga, it seemed like a year before she came out here. I know a lot of those pop acts, they break in Germany, they break over there.
Right.
So it was interesting that, I could feel it coming, and you never know because America's like the toughest nut to break.
It was the toughest one too for her because she broke in Australia, London, Canada, and one other country first before she broke here. And at the time, we were over, I forget where at Sony or something, and we were meeting with a bunch of people involved, and they were saying, it looks like she might be getting dropped because it's not happening. Which if she got dropped, it would have been over. That would have been the second time, it would have been straight out over. And all I remember is she going on the Miss Universe pageant and singing, and next thing you know, her career took off. And next thing you know, Just Dance went through the roof. And boom, next thing you know, we're getting a call. I'll never forget, we were in front of Madison Square Garden with the president, and I was with Rob and his girlfriend. And I remember Jimmy called and said, looks like Gaga's going to be Artist of the Year next year. We looked at each other like, holy shit. And that's coming from Jimmy Iovine, he was the man at that moment. He was the Clive Davis of our time at that moment, And sure enough, man, 4 smash #1s out of the box, which most people could take 20 years to get their first #1. She went through the roof, man. It was crazy, insane.
Well, that obviously took perseverance on both sides. The label continuing to push and see it through what they feel the potential is. But then there's the artist too. Like you say, the artist can't get discouraged. The artist got to keep creating, keep putting on better shows, keep developing their craft. What did you learn from that experience that you can relate to other artists or
let me just say this firsthand. I'll tell you this straight out. Stephanie, meaning Lady Gaga, who doesn't know her real name, was relentless. She was an artist that was going to be successful at any price, at any cost, and would do about anything for that success. And literally work, my God, we'd start at noon some days. Usually around 11 or 12 we start. We might take a dinner break. By 10, 11, we've already had a pretty good day in. She'd ready to start another song if we were finished. Relentless work ethic, drive, and literally when I talk to a lot of, because I work with mainly a lot of female artists, so for for some reason I have a touch to, work with female artists, but I would say 85% won't even do half of the stuff this girl will do for success. It's crazy. Gaga was relentless, and her work ethic. Most women, they want to go see their boyfriends, or they need to take their vacation. No, Gaga, like, she was booking her own shit. She was doing a lot of stuff herself too. Like, she was booking all her shows in their clubs over there, taking care of her MySpace page at the time. I mean, this girl worked because she wanted success that bad. And she got it, like, she got it. But I'm telling you, she wasn't going to give up. That girl, she was relentless. Relentless.
Well, it carried over to the movies. Her first movie, Star is Born, all the accolades and awards.
Crazy.
So you could just see the passion that she pours into what she does. So
that's right.
All of us need to be working a little harder.
Yeah, well, I just think if you want success, and this really means something to you, then you know what? It's almost like that's number one, and then everything else becomes second. It's your boyfriend, your family, everything is second. And most people won't do that. And I get that. I understand that. I totally understand. But it's like, this girl, and she's great. She was great. You could look her up when she was 19 when we met her. And my God, her behind the piano singing, she was already great walking in the door. That's what I'm saying. When I saw her just at the bitter end, go, oh my God, this girl's no joke. Like, play piano and sing, like, singing for 20 years, she studied with Don Lawrence, and definitely taught her well. And she wanted to, just be the best she possibly could be. And yeah, I mean, it was just, and look at her now. I mean, look at even like everything she does is grandiose, And I only could say that because I respect Stephanie, because I know she worked really hard and she went through hell getting there. That was no easy road by any means. I mean, everything she does, she spends crazy amount of time doing it. That's why she comes off so on top. People need to understand, you want to be great, the simple thing, work. Just work. Get in there, grind every day, write. Whatever you're doing, whatever you're trying to do, just work at it. And you know what? You'll become great. And look at your competition. I would suggest to everyone, I'm always, as long as I've been doing this, there's so many great people out there today. I'm always comparing to the best out there. I don't want my stuff to sound like anyone else's stuff. I'm always trying to create identities for artists to give them their own thing, but it has to hold up. And there's some monsters out there, no joke, man, putting out some great sounding stuff.
Well, I've had the pleasure of helping develop, many acts that are stadium acts now, and they would put on that, like you say, that same show for 10 people that they do for a stadium. Yeah, the production, the lighting, all that gets bigger, but the performance was as intense in an empty room or 10 people.
Listen, it's a simple concept. You have star quality or you don't. It's black or white. It's almost like even with music and songs. I mean, some of the things I just know well. It's like you really like the song, you think it's great, or it's all right, or it sucks. It's like there's not really a balance. If you don't like it, well, it's no good. You know what I mean? It's and everyone likes what they like. Everyone has different things, but yeah. So.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the art of songwriting. I know we've spoken before about less is more. You need to hook them with something that is, so basic. You can always build upon it, but if you hit them with the kitchen sink and all that off the top, it could go over their head. I remember first time hearing Queen, We Will Rock You. I mean, you pictured it in a football stadium.
Yeah.
Talk about that art of songwriting, and even with Lady Gaga and a lot of them, how you shrink the song down, the song still works on acoustic guitar or an acoustic piano.
Yeah, her stuff will always work on piano.
What tips do you have for the songwriters to kind of build those larger than life,
songs?
songs?
To look at it. That's what I say to everyone as a songwriter. Like, how many people do you want to move with your music? Because some people aren't trying to write the hit record. They're just trying to write a song that means something to them. So their melody might be okay, You know, the lyrics might be okay. And I mean, I've had a couple people show me something with no hooks, and I'm going, so there's no hook in here, like there's nothing to catch on. And it's a very simple concept. How many people do you want to move with your music? So if you want to move the world, write something that everyone can relate to and simplify it. Like I always call it the big and dumb theory. You know, it's like I'll do these crazy productions and have all this stuff, but I still try to reel it in so it still has some kind of simplicity to it and doesn't sound so overcomplicated and confusing. And the same thing when it comes to songwriting, it's like, for me personally, you know, I love great melodies. Great melodies catch me, and great lyrics that people can really relate to. Like I'm always looking at whoever I'm working with, because I'm not, quote, the big songwriter by any means. I'm getting more involved in songwriting with everyone today. But what I'm always looking at is like, how many people can relate to this record? You could be writing as something as dumb as like how you just, you know, love your dog. But other people might relate to how much they love their boyfriend or their girlfriend or their, you know, or their neighbor, whoever it may be, or someone, you know. It's like, it has to be worldwide for me. That's why I look at it. Like everything I try to work on, I want to see that the world can really relate to it, even though it means something so much more personal to the artist. And that's like a tricky thing, you know, and there's a lot of great writers that can really pull in. Like I love Ed Sheeran. His writing is crazy. His melodies are incredible. And it's funny because he'll put more lyrics in than I would probably push certain people, but he'll still have just enough to make a hook to make it work. And then you'll have Queen, like We'll Rock You, big and dumb. That's that big and dumb thing. That's like idiot proof. By the time you're done with it, it's like, it's locked in your brain. Like I love when I play something for someone, they go, oh my God, you just messed me up. That song's gonna be in my brain all day tomorrow. And it's like, oh, you're good, I did my job, you know? But I feel you gotta find that happy medium as a songwriter, that something connects with you, that's personal to you, no matter what it is, a dance record, love song, sad song, happy song, party song, whatever it may be. But it still has to relate to as many people worldwide as possible. I mean, that's the way I look at it. I feel like that's where your big hit, super big hit records come from today. You know what I mean?
Well, that's it. And we talk about those international markets where Lady Gaga broke. You know, English was not even their first language in some of these countries, you know, but they could relate to the emotion. They could relate to the melody, you know, and the worldwide market is where it's at.
Yeah. Gaga's edgy. She's an edgy artist. She's pop artist, but she's edgy. She pushes the envelope. You know, she took over Madonna's spot to a different level, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Earl, I know you have a desire to help develop, you know, new artists.
Yes.
I know, again, you're a significant producer and co-writer and all that, but for those that are serious, for those that really have some resources and certainly talent, where can people reach you? Give please your website.
Yeah, well, I have my Gmail's on there, and I could give you my Gmail account now to anyone that's interested. They could just write into me.
What's the website?
My website's earlcohenproductions.com.
Okay.
So you just go there, and you know, I have a business manager, Jeff, that people can reach out to. But my contact's in there; they can get to me direct. And I'm always, listen, if someone has something that, man, they think they are the next thing, I'm interested. You know, I know so many people, different labels, you know, and it stinks a lot of times because I can't walk in unless I have the right project, right artist. Everyone's looking for the next star and the album of the year. It's that black and white. Making it and getting it together is a whole nother concept, you know. So.
Well, Earl, it's been a real pleasure. We're going to let you get back to the studio. I know you're working on some new hits. Can't wait to hear those. And
Awesome.
We'll look forward to a follow-up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dave, for all your time. Great meeting you today. And again, thank you again.